Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, and every single tooth is gone. No dentist, no painkillers, no dentures, no antibiotics. Now imagine the same thing happening 30,000 years ago. At first, the answer seems obvious. You would starve. After all, prehistoric humans depended on chewing tough meat, cracking nuts, tearing apart roots, and surviving in environments where food was often difficult to obtain. Without teeth, survival sounds almost impossible. Yet archaeology tells a very different story. Some of the most remarkable skeletons ever discovered belong to people who had lost nearly all of their teeth and somehow kept living. How? The answer reveals one of the most compassionate chapters in human history. When most people imagine prehistoric humans, they picture powerful hunters with perfect teeth capable of biting through anything. Hollywood has encouraged this image for decades. But real human teeth have never been indestructible. Like ours, ancient teeth chipped. They cracked. They wore down. They became infected. Sometimes they simply fell out. Interestingly, prehistoric people probably suffered far fewer cavities than most modern humans. The reason is surprisingly simple: sugar. Today, many diets contain enormous amounts of refined sugar: soft drinks, candy, cakes, sweetened cereals, processed snacks. The bacteria living inside our mouths thrive on these sugars, producing acids that slowly dissolve tooth enamel. For almost all of human history, those foods simply did not exist. Hunter-gatherers ate meat, fish, berries, nuts, roots, mushrooms, and seasonal fruits. Their diets certainly contained natural sugars, but nothing resembling today's constant exposure to refined carbohydrates. As a result, cavities were often less common than they are today. Unfortunately, that did not mean prehistoric mouths stayed healthy forever. Age remained a relentless enemy. Every meal slowly ground tooth enamel away. Tiny grains of sand trapped inside food acted like natural sandpaper. Stone grinding tools sometimes left microscopic particles inside flour. Over decades, chewing literally wore teeth down. Some elderly individuals developed teeth worn almost flat. Others experienced painful abscesses caused by bacterial infections reaching deep inside the jaw. A single cracked tooth could eventually become infected. Without antibiotics, such infections were dangerous. Yet even when infection did not occur, another challenge remained. Eventually, teeth simply disappeared. The truly astonishing discovery came when archaeologists began examining prehistoric skeletons in greater detail. One famous example comes from the Neanderthal site of Chapelle-aux-Saints in France. The elderly individual discovered there had lost most of the teeth long before death. The empty tooth sockets had healed completely. This detail is incredibly important. Healing takes time: weeks, months, sometimes years. This person did not die immediately after losing those teeth. Another remarkable example comes from Shanidar Cave in present-day Iraq. Several individuals discovered there show evidence of severe injuries, disabilities, and advanced age. Some had extensive tooth loss. Others suffered crippling injuries that would have made hunting extremely difficult. Yet they survived. These discoveries challenge one of our oldest assumptions about prehistoric life. Perhaps survival did not always belong only to the strongest. Perhaps communities had already become strong enough to protect those who no longer could protect themselves. And if that is true, then losing your teeth may not have been the end of the story. It may have revealed something even more remarkable about what it meant to be human. If losing nearly every tooth didn't immediately kill these ancient people, how did they stay alive? After all, survival in the Ice Age demanded thousands of calories every day. You cannot hunt with an empty stomach. You cannot travel long distances without energy. And you certainly cannot chew dried meat with gums alone. The answer begins with an important realization. Prehistoric diets were far more flexible than many people imagine. When most people picture Stone Age meals, they imagine enormous chunks of roasted meat being torn apart with powerful jaws. Sometimes that certainly happened, but it was never the whole story. Hunter-gatherers consumed hundreds of different foods depending on the season, the landscape, and what happened to be available. Fish, soft berries, ripe fruits, wild mushrooms, tender shoots, eggs, fat-rich bone marrow, animal brains, even insects. Many of these foods required surprisingly little chewing. Bone marrow is a perfect example. After a successful hunt, prehistoric people often cracked open long bones using heavy stones. Inside was soft, nutrient-rich marrow packed with fat and calories. It could easily be swallowed without much chewing at all. Brains offered another valuable source of nutrition. Although the idea may sound unusual today, brains are soft, extremely energy-dense, and rich in essential fats. For someone with few remaining teeth, foods like these would have been far easier to eat than dried muscle meat. Cooking also changed everything. Evidence suggests that humans have controlled fire for hundreds of thousands of years. Cooking softens food. Meat becomes easier to tear apart. Roots become less fibrous. Vegetables become tender. Long, slow cooking can transform even tough connective tissue into food that requires very little chewing. Some archaeologists believe prehistoric people may even have crushed or pounded food before serving it. Stone mortars, grinding stones, hammer stones. These simple tools could break hard foods into smaller pieces long before they reached someone's mouth. The goal may not always have been convenience, but for an elder who had lost most of their teeth, such preparation could make the difference between eating and starving. Anthropologists have also observed something fascinating among several traditional hunter-gatherer societies. Adults sometimes prepare food specifically for infants who cannot yet chew. Food may be mashed, crushed, or softened before being shared. In some cultures documented during the past 2 centuries, caregivers even pre-chewed certain foods before feeding very young children. Whether prehistoric humans practiced this regularly remains uncertain. There is no direct archaeological evidence proving they did. However, the possibility reminds us of something important. Humans have always been remarkably willing to help one another eat. Perhaps the greatest evidence comes not from food itself, but from the people who survived. Consider again the elderly individuals discovered at Shanidar Cave. Some suffered injuries that would have made hunting nearly impossible. One individual appears to have lived for years despite serious disabilities affecting movement. Others had extensive tooth loss, yet they continued living long enough for bones to heal. For many archaeologists, this suggests something extraordinary. Someone must have helped. Perhaps younger hunters shared food. Perhaps family members prepared softer meals. Perhaps elders no longer hunted, but instead taught children where to find edible plants, how to shape stone tools, or how to read animal tracks. Knowledge became just as valuable as strength. In many ways, losing teeth may have marked the beginning of a new role rather than the end of life. The body weakened. Experience did not. And prehistoric communities appear to have understood that difference far better than we often assume. Thousands of years passed. Human societies changed dramatically. Villages grew into towns. Towns became cities. Eventually, people began searching for ways to replace what nature had taken away. The earliest attempts at dental treatment were surprisingly ancient. Archaeologists have discovered drilled teeth dating back more than 7,000 years in what is now Pakistan. Ancient Egyptians wrote about tooth pain. The Etruscans crafted some of history's earliest dental bridges using gold wire. Centuries later came dentures carved from ivory, wood, and eventually porcelain. Modern dentistry transformed what had once been one of humanity's greatest lifelong challenges. Today, a missing tooth is rarely permanent. Dentists can fill cavities before they become serious. Root canal treatment can save infected teeth. Crowns strengthen damaged ones. Dental implants can replace teeth lost decades earlier. Complete dentures allow millions of elderly people to eat comfortably again. Pain that once ended lives can now often be treated during a single appointment. Yet modern technology creates an interesting illusion. It encourages us to believe that survival depends primarily on tools. The archaeological evidence tells a different story. Long before dentistry existed, people were already finding ways to survive tooth loss, not because they possessed better technology, but because they possessed something equally powerful: one another. Imagine an elderly person living 40,000 years ago. The hunting trips have become shorter. The eyesight is weaker. Most of the teeth are gone. The younger hunters return carrying fresh meat. Instead of eating everything themselves, they share. Someone cracks open long bones to collect soft marrow. Someone tends the fire, slowly cooking tough meat until it becomes tender enough to swallow. Someone gathers ripe berries. Someone prepares edible roots. A child sits nearby listening to stories that have never been written down. Around the fire, food is not the only thing being passed from one generation to the next. Knowledge is. Perhaps that was always the elders' greatest contribution. Not speed, not strength. Memory. The locations of seasonal water. The behavior of migrating animals. The safest caves during winter. The poisonous plants to avoid. The stone that fractures best into sharp blades. The wisdom gathered across decades became far more valuable than a perfect set of teeth. Modern anthropology offers similar insights. In nearly every traditional hunter-gatherer society ever studied, older adults continue contributing to their communities even after their physical abilities begin to decline. Some become teachers. Some care for children. Some repair tools. Some preserve oral traditions that would otherwise disappear forever. The value of a human being has never depended entirely on physical strength. Perhaps that explains why archaeologists continue discovering skeletons of elderly individuals who survived astonishing injuries, disabilities, and tooth loss. Their communities chose not to leave them behind. That decision may have changed human evolution itself. Natural selection rewards cooperation just as surely as it rewards speed or strength. Groups that cared for experienced elders may have preserved knowledge that helped later generations survive droughts, harsh winters, dangerous predators, and unfamiliar landscapes. Kindness was not simply compassion. It became an evolutionary advantage. The next time you brush your teeth or sit in a dentist's chair, remember how ordinary that experience feels. Now imagine facing the same problem 30,000 years ago. No clinic, no anesthesia, no implants, no toothbrush. And yet, some people still lived for years after losing nearly every tooth. Perhaps the greatest discovery hidden inside ancient human teeth isn't about teeth at all. It's about people, long before dentists, long before modern medicine, long before anyone understood bacteria or dental anatomy. Human beings had already discovered one of the most powerful survival strategies ever developed. They cared for one another, and sometimes that was enough.